Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to look at another devblog for another battlefield engineer vehicle. This is the HMS Tiger, and it's kind of interesting that it's coming out on a Sunday. Normally we don't really get any news on a Sunday, and for me this would kind of indicate that we're going to get the event next week. Now this would line up with when normally Chronicles of World War II is, so it is looking like unfortunately that event is just dead, and we're getting a Build-A-Bear event as well. So, let's talk about the HMS Tiger and some of its little intricacies. A lot of people have been focused on the Merkava. They really enjoy the vehicle, the fact that it's one of the first proper Israeli vehicles that is coming to the game, coming into the American tree, a very popular tree as well. It's got a stabilizer, the majority of people in the game play ground forces, and with Naval, well, War Thunder Naval has definitely got a smaller population. At top tiers, there isn't as many people as there is at top tier ground forces. That's just a fact. So you can understand why people are generally not too interested in the HMS Tiger. Well, hopefully after this video, you will be interested in it, because it has a lot of interesting features that, if ever come to the game, would be astronomical and would make it a hell of a lot of fun. I mean, it's already confirmed that it is getting its semi-automatic guns, so that makes me incredibly happy. But there are some other things as well, such as its ability to carry anti-ship missiles and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people, because of the Merkava, because of the Battle Toaster, because of stuff like the Ju-388, are going to sleep on the HMS Tiger, and I can understand why. It's because of the game mode and all of this stuff. But this is a top-tier vehicle that we're going to get in the Build-A-Bear event. And I think, overall, that is insane. Even the Merkava itself is not going to be a top-tier vehicle. The HMS Tiger is going to be a top-tier vehicle, either 5.0 or 5.3. I highly doubt it'll be a 5.7, just because it does have some limitations. So let's talk about the HMS Tiger. It started out, or was supposed to be, part of the Minotaur class, which was a set of light cruisers developed in World War II, 1943 to be exact, but unfortunately the three ships that were in the Tiger class cruiser eventually after the war were partially finished, but never completed in World War II. The reason for this is because the British and the Royal Navy were much more bothered about anti-submarine warfare, and this thing was not designed to annihilate submarines. It was designed to annihilate anything above the above the water instead. So the ideas behind the HMS Tiger and its brothers were left behind, and instead more focus was done on anti-submarine ships instead. Now, come the 1950s, post-war, the ideas of the light cruiser in general had kind of fallen out of favour, especially with the Royal Navy and many other navies in the world. And it was either seen as larger ships were the way to go, or smaller ships such as things like, well, not really patrol boats, but things like the PR-159 were the way to go, because they could deal with submarines and also deal a hell of a lot of damage to these larger ships as well. So, the Tiger was put in an odd position, and luckily for it, it was given a lease of life in the 50s because of the guns that were mounted on it, and also the development of anti-ship missiles. Unfortunately, because of this, it does lack a few features that I personally like in naval, such as torpedoes, and also it probably will lack some other features as well. But the main thing to understand is this is one of the most modern light cruisers we will have in game, and also it will be the most modern Royal Navy cruiser that we will probably get when it comes to the light cruiser idea. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going for it, and that's why it's weird that it's going to be a Build-A-Bear event vehicle. I thought this would be a main tech tree vehicle. I mean, there are other parts of the Tiger class cruiser, you know, I believe there were 3 of them made. If we go to the Wikipedia page really quickly, you know, it talks about all the different ones. You basically have the Tiger, the Lion, and the Blake. So, you know, we're getting the Tiger, and the other 2, you know, you could stick in the tree if you wanted to, and I'm sure it'll be similar to the Merkava, where since it is pretty much a top-tier vehicle at this point, I doubt it will have premium behind it. I would be incredibly surprised, but then again, we did just get the Leningrad, which is fully premium, at rank 3, and one of the best destroyers that the Soviets have, so anything is possible when it comes to this machine. Anyway, with the HMS Tiger coming, it does mean that the meta is going to be tested when it comes to the naval portion of War Thunder. And one thing I do want to point out just before we move on, I am really sick of the Royal Navy not being more imaginative. This is how many HMS Tigers there are. When it comes to the Royal Navy, could we please find something else? You know, it would be fair picking a different name. Going all the way back to the 1500s and all the way to the 1950s, you know, which is, you know, this machine right here. Could we please, for the love of God, please pick different names for our ships? But anyway, the reason why this could be meta-defining, along with stuff like the Brooklyn, is the fact that it does have good armor behind it. It has very similar armor to the Minotaur class, which we'll get into, and also these guns. So the guns that it has access to, you could probably see from these pictures, there aren't that many of them, right? You have 2 big turrets, one on the front, one on the back. You have small turrets here, and then you have a small turret here. Now, you'll be thinking, well, this thing's undergunned, right? It's not got a lot of stuff on it. It's only got 452 millimeters. It's only got 2, you know, 76 millimeters, and then maybe, you know, it's got a few other things. You know, if we actually have a look at the Tiger class here, you know, 2 twin 6 inches, so that is, you know, the bigger guns. Then you got 3 twin 3 inches, okay, that's all right. And then you got 1 twin 6-inch gun, you know, that's okay. And then 1 twin 3-inch. So not a ton of stuff, right? The difference is with this vehicle is the larger caliber guns have a semi-automatic feature where they can fire 20 rounds a minute. So that is a round every 3 seconds. Then we have a look at the 76s, the lower caliber gun. They have, like these guns that you see here, they have 90 rounds per minute, right? So every, what is that? You know, one and a half rounds a second. So these things can put out so much firepower, even though there aren't a ton of them. What we're dealing with here is an upscaled PR-159. Now, if you don't remember, in the early days of War Thunder, when it came to naval, or even today, when it comes to naval, how effective the PR-159 can be. And also remember, we're getting another one, the upgraded PR-159, in the form of the Squadron event vehicle, which we still haven't heard of when they're coming to the game, so it would be nice to have some clarification on them. And also, you know, when this event is happening, you know, we've got a lot of hype built up now. It would be nice to know when stuff is going on, especially if, you know, people are going to be busy and stuff. But the PR-159 and its brother have semi-automatic guns. They fire incredibly quickly, and they do a ton of damage to anything they touch. Now imagine if you took a PR-159, you extended it, you gave it larger guns, and, well, basically more of them. That is the HMS Tiger. That is what we're going to be dealing with here. We're going to be dealing with a light cruiser which has an insane fire rate of its main caliber guns and its lower caliber guns. Now, the problem is, as you may have realized, there's not a lot of AA support here. there's not a lot of torpedoes. Now, there is none, and for me, those are two things which I would like to see. Now, unfortunately, the Tiger class wasn't really designed for AA defense, so there wasn't any really, built with anything, but it is something as a captain you're going to have to deal with. This is going to be incredibly good at the start of a battle to pretty much annihilate whatever ship is coming near it. But once the planes start coming, you're going to have a few issues, and you're going to need a little bit of support from other players. But just think about how many rounds you can pump into people. A lot of top-tier light cruisers, when it comes to War Thunder, it seems like there is an interesting balance. So on one side, you've got the Nürnberg, the Kern, and the Krasny, which have huge guns. Massive guns. Not the best fire rate, but huge guns, which are able to dish out a lot of damage in one blow. Then you've got machines like the Brooklyn, which are designed to be able to have more efficiency, so they're able to fire more rounds. Then you have something like the Leander, which is designed in a way so it can take more rounds, and also on top of this, dish out a decent bit of damage. Imagine if you took, like, the Leander's armor, lessened it a little bit, and then just added the semi-automatic guns on a 159. So we're once again going to be testing the meta to see if it is big bruisers who come in and mash face. Are they going to be the ones which are going to dominate light cruiser meta, or is it going to be the fast-firing machines that you see, such as the HMS Tiger? For me personally, as a person who plays more arcade than I do realistic, I can definitely vouch for the very valid choice of picking a machine which can throw out more rounds more quickly. Because in arcade, the way that the targeting works is, you need to target an enemy, then you need to fire one salvo at it to range it, and then you need to fire as many as you can once the automatic range has, sorted it. Now, on top of this as well, since in arcade, I'm not sure if you have boosted damage models, but you definitely, it takes more hits to kill a ship in arcade than it does in realistic. There's probably less chance of ammo racks and stuff like that, just generally how it is in most, arcade compared to ground games in War Thunder. So you need to dish out more oomph per second, and that's exactly what the Tiger does. As long as your main turrets can stay online, it will definitely outtrade the enemy, no matter what is coming at it in the current iteration of the game. Now, talking about its armor, because I think it is important to talk about a light cruiser's armor. Now, in-game, we have a bunch of light cruisers who, if they are stock, cannot penetrate the other light cruisers they're facing, and good luck if you're in a destroyer against the heavier light cruisers. So, the Tiger, not that one, this one, has a belt of 89 to 83 millimeters worth of armor. It has bulkheads of 51 to 38, turrets 51 to 25, and then around the engine rooms and magazines it has 51 millimeters. Oh, by the way, it also has access to being able to carry helicopters, because obviously this thing was used until the late 70s. Now, the thing at the end of the day is that is enough armor to be able to stop any HE rounds, so the enemy is going to have to use AP against you, and because of the fact that you won't have huge ammunition storages all over the place, it will be hard to ammo rack you. So the main things you have to watch out for are going to be just those big 180s or big 150s absolutely annihilating your center, or you're going to have to watch out for torpedoes, since, you are still a light cruiser. Since it's a very modern light cruiser compared to the rest we have in game, should be a little bit more maneuverable, should have very large engines in it. As we can see here, the propulsion is 4 Admiralty Type 3 drum boilers, 4 shaft Parsons, steam turbines, and it can go around about 58.3 kilometers an hour, or 32 knots. So this thing isn't naffing about. It has the speed behind it, it will have the maneuverability, and it does have the firepower and a decent amount of armor. We are being blessed as a British Tree in getting this vehicle. Now, I personally wish it was coming into the tree instead of as a battlefield engineer event, But the thing is, a lot of people have been complaining that the Merkava is going into the American tree. But look at this monstrosity that we are getting into the British Naval Tree. I understand that if you don't play naval and you just want a shiny new ground vehicle to play around with, and you want it to be in the British Tree because there are less premiums in the British Tree, I understand that. But with time, that will be fixed. It has to be fixed, because that's basically just what happens in War Thunder. You have the three major nations, and then you have the four minor ones, and eventually the minor ones catch up to the major ones. We're seeing this with French helicopters, we're seeing this with Britain, getting stuff like the Challenger 2, the Choc Cadet, all of this stuff. And now, the HMS Tiger. I could definitely make an argument for Britain at top tier being very competitive when it comes to the naval portion, but it's very sad to see that a lot of people, especially British players, are focusing on the ground forces portion, when in aircraft, it's a lot of fun, apart from the fact, we have an issue at, once again, top tier, but every other rank is great for Britain. On top of this, the naval stuff is wonderful. The dark classes are very fun, the general battle boats are very fun, you've got incredibly competitive destroyers, and the light cruisers, now with the Tiger and also the Leander, are incredibly competitive. If you're a British-only player, or if you really like Britain, and you only play ground forces or you only play air forces, give naval a go. Enjoy it, have fun with it, and get your hands on this monstrosity so you can annihilate the enemy and put them in their place. I have heard too many German players bitch about their repair costs when it comes to their top-tier light cruisers. I have heard too many Soviet players complain about the fact that their heavy cruisers are named light cruisers. I've heard too much about the Brooklyn annihilating everything. It is time for the Royal Navy to stand up in War Thunder and annihilate everybody around and take our crown, as is right, on the 7 seas. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank B. Young, Blackie, Dyslexic Child, Moxie, Olo Brolo, Martinez, and Super Cacti for supporting me on Patreon.